Welcome to the Thomas P. Gohagan and Company Traveling Owls webinar. My name is Shannon Burnett, and I am the Assistant Director with Alumni Programs in charge of the Traveling Owls portfolio. I'm here for your RICE questions, your Traveling Owls questions, but I really encourage you to soak up the time that you've got with Gohagan to learn more about their company and the 2022 trips that they've got planned for our Traveling Owls. I do want to provide some friendly Zoom reminders really quick. So if you feel comfortable, we'd love for you to turn your video on. You're welcome to wait until after the presentation to do so. And again, it is definitely not a requirement. And we do ask that you keep your audio on mute though, unless you're speaking or asking a question to kind of cut down on some of that background noise. Bobby is going to give an overview of their program and the 2022 trips, and then leave time for questions at the end. If you think of a question while they're presenting, you're welcome to write that in the chat, and I'll make sure that we circle back so we can get you an answer. Once the presentation is done and we've answered all the questions in the chat, you can take yourself off mute and ask them directly. And then during the presentation, my last tip would be, it might be helpful to be in speaker view so that you can see just the presentation and the presenter. And now I'd like to introduce Robert Bingle from Thomas P. Gohagan and Company. Take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Shannon, and thanks everyone for having me again. I had fun last year when we did the travel webinar. At that time, it was more just, I think, wishful thinking, but now we're actually getting into some real tangible possibilities of a return to travel. And I, for one, our whole company, our industry is getting excited again. And I would say we're feeling truthfully optimistic for the first time really since everything went awry here. We're actually thinking that we're nearing the beginning, at least, of turning that proverbial corner. So we shall see, and I appreciate you all joining me. I can already see some familiar names. I'm sure I might have seen some of you in person at the event in Houston in the past. So let us dive in. I'm going to share my screen here, and with my PowerPoint, here we go. All right. We've got it going here. Okay. So right off the bat, we have Santorini. Love that. Great shot from above there. And so a little bit of an overview for those of you not familiar with our company. We specialize in small group educational travel. We've been in the industry for over 35 years. One key element of our company and our model is that we are completely exclusive to alumni associations and a few nonprofit groups. We are not open to the general public. Our trips are only with alumni groups so that we can really fashion these exclusive itineraries that you can't get anywhere else, and then really hone in on the academic elements of the trip. Do that in a number of ways. First and foremost, on the ground at these local places, we have top local experts. So they're academia, through and through. Many of them are professors in their local areas, a very scholarly group. I say that, when you're in Santorini or you're in, wherever it may be in the Amalfi Coast of Positano, you want someone who not only knows it, but can really take it to that next level with the academic elements. You don't want a college kid taking you around. I always joke, that was my job in Chicago for a number of years that I wouldn't have recommended myself. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The other thing is that when we do use ships, which will be the four trips that we are going to talk about today, we fully charter them. So it's not half our group, half the general public. It is only our group. That allows us to do our lecture series, which professors from the various universities will lecture on the areas. We have special speakers, which I'll touch on once we get into the trips. And having the full charter of the ship allows us to change course if we need to, and really just fashion the program to what we think will be the best experience for our clientele and our travelers. And with that, I'm going to move into the elephant in the room, as it were. So I think we can all understand that when travel does return, and ideally fully return in the next year or two, it will look a bit different. That's just the reality of it. And there's about two main parts to it. The first would be before you even leave home. There's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of requirements, especially this first year, if you're looking to travel in 2021. probably somewhat in 2022 as well. The one thing that we are seeing within the industry that's consistent is that it's changing all the time, day to day, week to week. Some countries' borders will change, and then the others will follow suit, or then they'll kind of, thankfully, we're not seeing as much of the restrictions, at least in Europe. Certainly, other parts of the world are going through a really tragic second spike. But ultimately, before leaving home is going to be that first layer that we're going to see the differences in travel. Right now, if you want to travel internationally in 2021, the best way to have a chance to do it is to be vaccinated. As a company, as the ship lines we're using, we of course are not, promoting it one way or the other. But the reality is that these countries, these borders are saying, for the most part, if you want to come and experience our country, hey, you don't have to be vaccinated. You just can't come within our borders and potentially endanger our citizens. There are different exceptions for people. There are medical reasons and various other reasons why people choose not to get vaccinated. There are some other ones, but it at least for this first year of coming back, will make things a lot more difficult. A lot of the countries we're seeing, for example, the first real one to kind of open up European-wise recently is Iceland. You can travel to Iceland if you have to prove proof of vaccination. The next big thing was going to be the EU. The EU and the Schengen zone, are they going to have a unified effort as far as letting people in? And that's what everyone in the industry is certainly hoping for, because it gets very difficult if you have trips that go to multiple countries, or you just want to travel to multiple countries, and one country that borders another in Europe has completely different entry requirements. And so the EU has come out and said they're actually looking to ideally potentially start beginning to open by late summer. And the idea would be they would have a unified set of requirements. And then, so from there, that would be the pre-departure element of getting out and actually getting into a country. But then on the actual trip, I think you're going to see a lot of positive things that have come from all this. People being more hygienic in general, the ships using different protocols and whatnot to have it more sanitary. Almost all of them are doing that. Our local operators, the ships we're using are going to have fully vaccinated staff. Things like that, which I think, for at least this next year or two as we get back, are just going to be important. And I think not necessarily a negative thing. And ultimately, for us, when we're operating, no matter what, the health and safety is at the forefront, but then also maintaining the integrity of the itinerary. We're not going to take someone somewhere where everything's closed. And so that's where we just really trust our local operators and our wide range of partners. So with that, I'm going to get into the 4 trips a little bit and actually start talking a little bit about travel. So starting off with a great one here, the European coastal civilizations. This will be May 11th to 20th, and we have a Lisbon pre-tour extension and a London post-tour extension. So you can see the ship we'll be using is from a company called Ponant. It's about 160 person ship, all inclusive, 5-star, all balcony suites. These are really wonderful ships, and you can see that magnificent view of it coming under the Tower Bridge up the Thames River. That's how we finished this trip. And I apologize. There was this pesky owl on the bridge. I just couldn't get it to move out of my picture. But anyway, in any event, you'll just have to ignore that. And as you can see on the map, we go to the Iberian Peninsula, around the Bay of Biscay, St. Malo, Normandy, and finish in London. So a heck of a trip, and I'll tell you a little bit of some of the highlights. So great anchor cities, starting in Lisbon, finishing in London. So you're great for flights, great to tack on some time if you want to do one of the extensions. So we begin moving up north from Lisbon, and we go to Oporto. So Oporto, we have the medieval quarter, the wonderful art scene there, and of course the port wine. We continue on Santiago de Compostela, the pilgrimage site, where it is said that the Apostle St. James's remains are, and it's just a beautiful, idyllic Spanish town. We continue then to Bilbao for, of course, the Guggenheim, the Frank Gehry Design Museum, and then plenty of time to just wander, get lost, enjoy Bilbao. And we are really staying at these ports late into the night, so you have time to experience these areas. So then we cruise the Bay of Biscay. We'll have some wonderful lectures during that cruise. And then we get to Mont Saint-Michel at Saint Malo. And this is an absolutely stunning place. This is on the top left-hand corner. You can see that picture. The highest tides of any place in Europe, almost 15 meters on any given day. And it's remarkable. When we go in, oftentimes you see the tides are out. So you can see, you know, the ocean floor for almost a mile. And then you get closer and then the water is up almost lapping against the base of Mont Saint Michel. And it's a wonderful, wonderful stop before we get into then maybe the biggest highlight of the trip, and that would be the Normandy beaches. So on this, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, we have Dwight David Eisenhower II, who is the grandson of Dwight. He goes by David, and he joins us in Mont Saint Michel, but then throughout the time in the Normandy beaches, and leads our group along Pointe du Hoc and Utah Beach and some of the various other stops along the way. We do a wreath-laying ceremony at the American Cemetery. And David lectures throughout. He's written a Pulitzer Prize nominated book on Operation Overlord and just is fantastic. And his wife, Julie Nixon, is also a wonderful, wonderful resource. She does not shy away from her father's legacy, just a great, great person, both of them to have on the trip. And then, of course, we end going up the Thames River under the London Bridge and to the London Tower. The next one, now we're in Italy in the spring. You can't beat this. Amalfi Coast, Sicily, Malta. It's just spectacular. Wonderful time of year to be there. Good anchor cities in Rome and Malta. We'll be there May 12th through the 20th. So it's before kind of that peakish season, at least in the northern portion of this itinerary, the Rome portion of it. And it will be again aboard another Ponant ship. So same accommodations, all inclusive, things of that nature. Let's dive in. So we start off with Rome, and then from Rome, we head south and make our way down to the Amalfi Coast. So we're going Naples for Pompeii. So right off the bat, we're having one of the most iconic experiences along the western coast of Italy to see the site of Pompeii. It's just spectacular. The following day, we get into the heart of the Amalfi Coast for Positano, and then the Isle of Capri, and we overnight in Capri. So you know, there's no rush. You're there. You're walking along the water side, having some wine. It's just, it's lovely. And this nice pacing. We don't take off either middle of the night when you're already asleep or early in the morning. So you really get to experience these places thoroughly. Then we head on down to Sicily. So we're going past Stromboli, the mountain, for Taormina. And at Taormina, we start seeing some of the Greco-Roman sites that are more part of this second part of this itinerary, like the famous theater of Taormina. In Syracuse, we explore old Syracuse, and again, we're there overnight, so it's just a full day in the southeastern corner of Sicily, just absolutely beautiful. And then we continue, we get to the western side of Sicily for Agrigento, and that will be our last stop before then going to the new country of the trip, Malta. So all of a sudden, we're in the capital of Malta, where we'll go to the Casa Rocca Piccolo, which is a wonderful kind of old chateau place with a wine experience. And then we'll also see the World War II war rooms, which is really neat. It's much more, I didn't realize, a strategically important spot throughout World War II. And a lot of very significant things happened on Malta. Okay, so now we are into the fall. And again, I got my picture ruined again. There was a plane flying by. I don't know what the heck they had written there, but I don't know, maybe that makes sense to you. In any event, that would be our ship going by the Iron Gates. So you can see just how spectacular that is. This trip it's unbelievable, just the amount of places and different cultures that we see along it. It's 7 countries, 5 capital cities of Eastern Europe, just a lot going on, and really, really an amazing trip. And we get all the way to the Black Sea, which is the key. A nice time of year to be there. It would be October 10th through the 22nd. We have a Vienna pre-tour extension and then a Transylvania post-tour extension, which is very popular with people, especially in mid to late October, as you can imagine. And this will be aboard the Amadeus Star, which is our classic river style ship, the longer, narrower ship as opposed to the ocean going one that you have seen in the previous slides there. And we can dive into this. I'm going to take a deep breath here because there's a lot of places on this one. So as we begin in Vienna, So we have Vienna and Bucharest as the anchor cities, which are, again, great, good for flights, good to tack on extra time on either end. So right off the bat, we begin in Vienna. We're in one of the capital cities before moving on to Bratislava. So next we're in Slovakia. We spend a full day there in the medieval town, a walking city tour, and then the whole afternoon just to explore and just get into this incredible capital city. Next, Budapest. We both parts of the Twin City, the Buda side, the Pest side, the Fisherman's Bastion, the famous Opera House. So right off the bat, within the first 3 days, you've seen 3 of these remarkable capitals of Eastern Europe that are all very different. Certainly some similarities and cultural things they share running through them, but ultimately they all have their own feel to them. What's nice now is we've done a couple of cities and we're getting out into the country. So Kalocsa and Vukovar would be getting out into the Putsa and getting into Croatia and then Novi Sad in Serbia. And we're really out in the country, out there. We're seeing the plain, we're seeing the famous horses there. We're seeing the famous production sites of paprika in Kalocsa, and a completely different feel than of what we were experiencing those first few days. From there, we go back to another capital city, and we're in Belgrade. So we're now in a completely different country in Serbia, another capital city, before moving on to Lipinski Bir, which is really neat because now it's a completely different element to the trip. We're getting into the Mesophilic sites here. We're going 7,000, 9,000 BCE. Incredible sites and are really solidly intact. So it's hard to describe unless you get there. Just an amazing day to go through there. And then we go past the Iron Gates, as we saw in that previous picture. We continue on then, we get into Bulgaria, and then for Nikopol, and then continuing on into Romania to Pešti for another highlight, another European travel highlight. Here we go. Constanta, you're on the Black Sea. So we'll spend a day on the Black Sea. So you've done all these different parts of the Western Danube, and we made it. We got all the way to the Black Sea, and it's a neat kind of European travel bucket list thing to check off. And a beautiful little town, Constanta, there. We spent some time there in Pešti. We disembark, and then we'll spend 2 nights in Bucharest, right in the heart of the city. And we'll do a full day Parliament, open air museum, and then 2 nights to just really experience another incredible European capital city, Bucharest of Romania. So now I can breathe. No, but it really is. There's so many different elements to this, so many different obviously cities, country, prehistoric sites. You get a little bit of everything, and you only really have to unpack twice, which is now we're going to move into the final trip that we're going to have with Rice in 2022, and I could not think of a more exciting one for our conclusion here. This would be the Antiquities of the Red Sea and the Aegean Sea. The Board Le Bougainville, which is another one of the Ponant ships, as I had discussed before, and it will be in late October 29th, November 11th. Will be an Athens pre-tour extension, and then an Israel post-tour extension, one of our lengthier extensions, almost 6 nights in Israel. So we begin in Athens, and we make our way down, and we're getting through 3 seas: the Mediterranean, the Aegean, the Red Sea. We go through the Suez Canal, the Gulf of Aqaba, and 3 different continents when it's all said and done. And really, I would say 3 of the most important cradles of ancient civilization, with the sites in Jordan, in Egypt, in Greece, in Santorini, and then in Israel and Jerusalem. So let's dive into this. I broke it up here into 2 separate slides here. So we begin in Athens and then make our way down south towards Santorini. We spend the full day in Santorini. We go to Akrotiri, which is this wonderful Bronze Age site, and then just time to enjoy Santorini. You get your ouzo, you get the freshest fish you can imagine, and we're not leaving until we stay there that night. So there's no rushing. Then we're cruising south to get to the northern coast of Egypt. We start in Alexandria, where we'll go to the Alexandria, the famous library there. Some of the other sites you can see down below there, the beautiful coastline of Alexandria to the bottom left there. Then we transit the Suez Canal, which is a really remarkable experience. Another one of those bucket list travel things you can check off for Cairo and Giza. And now we're getting into the heart of Egypt. So we're the Grand Pyramids. We're going through Cairo. And I will add one of the neatest parts of this that we just added in the last few months. There's a gentleman named Dr. Tariq Tawfiq, and he is an Egyptologist, and he is the director, the head of the new Egyptian Museum in Cairo. It's the gazillion-dollar museum they've been working on forever, and they claim it is going to be open in the fall of 2021. But regardless, he's going to be with us from Alexandria on. He'll be with us in Cairo and Giza, and then he might come with us down south to the Valley of Kings and Queens. But you don't get to be the grand director of the biggest tourism investment and archaeological historical investment in Egypt in the last 50 years without knowing your stuff. So I'm really excited that he's going to be joining us all these sites. So then, yes, of course, we head down south of the Red Sea down to get to Hurghada for Luxor, Valley of Kings and Queens, all the various tombs, Karnak Temple there. So we get the full Egyptian experience. Next, completely mix it up here now. We go across the Red Sea, up the Gulf of Aqaba, and we go to Jordan. So the major things we're going to do in Jordan is Wadi Rum, so the site of Lawrence Arabia where they filmed that. We do a Bedouin gathering trip that we all go out north together there. We stay in Aqaba, so right in beautiful Jordan coastal city, and we're right on the heart of the water. So we do Wadi Rum, then we do a full day to Petra. As you can see my pictures, bottom left would be Wadi Rum, and of course the treasury of Petra on the right, a full day there. We continue up north to Amman, and then the main things we would do is Jerash for some of the most intact Greco-Roman sites in all of that portion of the world. And then Amman itself, we do a city tour, is really lovely and a nice place to end the trip. And then of course the Israel extension for those who would like to go on. We are going to do, I believe it's 5, maybe 6 nights actually even of an Israel extension. So 3 continents, 3 seas, the Suez Canal. You can't ask for a whole lot more. I'm begging to go on this one. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll see some of you on. But in any event, that would be our 4th and final trip of 2022 with the Rice Traveling Owls. And with that, I just wanted to thank you all again for letting me talk to you about travel. It's really refreshing to do so, and always enjoy being able to connect with the Rice alumni team and then you, the Rice alumni. So thanks, everyone. Stop my screen share.
I just love your enthusiasm when you're talking about all of the trips. I mean, I could feel the excitement. I'm like, woo, let's go. We do have 2 questions in the chat, so I'll start with those and then we can open it up to anyone else. So Paula Smith, do you want to come off mute and ask yours, or I can ask it on your behalf? Okay. She asks, do Malta and the D-Day tours overlap, or is it possible to do both?
They, unfortunately, the way the dates work out would overlap. Unfortunately, the majority, about 80% of each itinerary would overlap, but you can't go wrong with either one. I can see the next question, pricing. And it varies depending on the trips. I can tell you that for our European coastal life, which was the Iberia and Malo and Normandy, our river life along the Danube River, and then our Amalfi Coast, Sicily and Malta, those are all a very similar price range in that they're beginning at about $4,200, $4,300. And then moving up from there, and that includes everything except airs and personal purchases, gratuities, things of that nature. The Red Sea is more expensive. It's longer, all the places involved. And that begins at, I believe, about $7,790. But yeah, and then I think, Shannon, you have those exact prices maybe up on the website.
You cut out a little bit towards the end. But I was just going to say that we do have the starting prices listed on our upcoming trips website as well for all of these. and I'm going to link that in the chat. Carmen Eggleston also had a question in the chat that says, I assume if the entire ship is used for Gohagan passengers, that means we could be traveling with other alumni groups. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So for example, on the type of like the European coastal, the Iberia, France, England trip, it's about 150 travelers total. So we end up doing, more or less like maybe 10 schools on board. And the way we do it is that within each of the alumni associations, you tour together, you have your own personal guide, in groups of 10 to 15 people or so on the excursions. We do private receptions, cocktail receptions, things like that for the groups. So you definitely are with your alumni. It's very much affinity based in that sense. But the other nice element of having other schools on is, first of all, you might have connections with people. There's a lot of like-minded travelers as far as wanting to get into that kind of educational element. And then any people from the various universities, any lecturers are available to everyone, and they'll lecture throughout. And that really adds a whole different element to the trips where before you go to Santorini, you might have a professor from one of the other schools who she or he has written a book on Santorini. So it really kind of gives the trip an added depth.
Those are the only questions in the chat. Does anyone want to take themselves off mute and ask? Nancy, I see you.
Yeah, Bobby. Hi.
Hey, Nancy. I wish I was in Houston to see you, but next year.
Yeah, that'd be great. Do you know any trips that Robin Mort's going to be on?
Yes, she is going to be doing, she would be on the Iberia, France one, and she'll definitely be on the Red Sea. And then I'm not sure of the others, but those I know she'll be the leader on those ones. So we're bringing our top one, TD, our top travel director for those ones.
You betcha.
Yep.
Thank you.
I was on a trip a number of years ago, and we shared the trip with other schools. We had Michigan and Ohio State along with us, so that made for interesting discussions.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's always fun when we have schools from different regions. You get the West Coast, you get the Southwest, Northeast. It's there's always, it's good. There's always great discussion.
There's a fight every morning to see who could get their flag up first.
Yeah, right. Fly it on the ship. Yep.
Any other questions about these 4 trips we've got?
Let's see. I think oh, there we go.
Am I back?
Now we got you. Yep.
Okay. Well, I am going to go ahead and close this out then. You are welcome to email travelingowls@rice.edu or reach out to Gohagan directly if you have any questions. One of us will find the answer if we don't know it, and make sure we get that back to you. Thank you so much, Bobby, for joining us, and thank you all for your questions and your time. That's it, and goodbye.